What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissom. With me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs.
What
David,
up,
what's
Joe?
going on? How we
Nothing much,
feeling
man.
today?
Good, good, very good.
I mean, he's got his jersey hair today, very slick back, very mafioso. He's going on a hit after this right away.
Yeah,
Put somebody in the
yeah,
trunk of a Cadillac.
yeah, right, exactly.
So, I have a very interesting topic, and the first time that we talked about this was with the last exam cycle. And as my program has gotten bigger and bigger, one of the nice things of kind of being on the show is that when we got started, I primarily did a lot of one-on-one tutoring with very little group. Obviously,
Right.
my program has grown, it's expanded, it's become more formalized um, as over the time that we've done the show. And it's pretty kind of cool to see it grow with the show as well. And one of the things as I come across more people who contact me on LinkedIn, people who contact me via email, who come through the site, who I sit down with, who eventually make it into the program, is there's a very clear distinction between being ready for the exam knowledge wise and being ready for the exam emotional wise. And they're two totally different things. And I think this is something that we all know intuitively that we may have the knowledge, but we don't necessarily have. And I think the way that everybody says that, I wasn't confident going in. I kind of knew the material, but I wasn't that confident. And then I
Oh
went in
yeah,
and then I got slapped in the face. And now looking back at that exam, I was like, oh man, I can't believe I answered that. I knew the right answer. I just wasn't confident in my answers.
yeah. I mean, it's a classic situation of the light the for cliche as fuck term, the lights got too bright. And how often does this happen with athletes where you have a stud and they, let's say they have a great regular season, great best player on the team, MV, whatever, and they step up to the plate in October and they strike out. Like how often does that happen? And it
So often. It's what
or pl-
differentiates
or
being good and great.
or a player steps up in May in the NBA and misses free throws and he's a 90% free throw shooter. How often does that happen? It's classic. It's all that is all mental. That's where it's like a lot of people that go in and I don't know I don't know what the number that I would tab this as, but I do think a lot of people go in and they actually have the knowledge. Or a lot of people go in that end up failing do have enough knowledge to pass the exam, but they sit down and I think a lot of people end up psyching themselves out once you click that start button. So then the question is, if you have the knowledge and you're prepared enough, what do you do to make sure that you don't psych yourself out of passing the exam?
Yeah,
That's the key for I think a lot of people.
it's one of the honestly the hardest and most frustrating things as a teacher because there's a lot of things that I can coach you to, but I can't sit and take the exam with you.
Hmm.
And that is, the point, one of the things that we do in group that is really important is we emphasize our mock exams. And one of the things that we do now in our most recent groups is you're not allowed to take it at your house. And the reason that we do that is I want you out of your comfort zone. You have to do it outside of the comfort
Oh,
of your own
sorry.
house.
I don't want you to keep going. I didn't realize that you made that rule, by the way. That's a
Yeah,
great rule.
it's a new one because
That's
we
a
want
great
right.
rule.
Like, and the reason that is that if you start getting in the habit from your first mock of having to leave your house and take it somewhere like a library or your office or some other place, it starts getting you in the mindset of, oh my God, now I'm starting to feel the pressure of this because now there's some formality to this where I'm not in my underwear. Like I have to go out, I have to be around people, so I have to put on actual clothes. And you know,
And you got that, and you have like the butterflies on the way to the
yeah,
location.
you're driving like, oh man, like now I got to forward Joe my results
Right,
afterwards. And
right,
now
right,
there's
right.
some level of
I
a
love that.
formality to it.
I love I didn't know you did that, Joe, but I think that may be one of my favorite enhancements that you made to your process. I love that.
Yeah. And the reason we do that is that, like anything else, building confidence comes through repetition. And I think that sometimes the reason that people go like, I did well on this quiz. Okay, do it again. But I already did well on the quiz. I met the standard that you need. The reason we take three mocks is because not so we can meet some goal. Like, obviously, we want to increase it, but part of that is just building the confidence in taking a 170 question exam. And the way that we go about it, we want you prepping in a specific manner so you can go turn around and do it on exam day. But sometimes you're doing reps, not necessarily because you're trying to improve your knowledge. It's just getting in the habit of, I see the answer and I don't let my brain talk me out of the right answer that I already know.
Hmm. No, for
And
sure.
that is a practiced habit as well of, I see the answer, I answer it, and being confident. And for a lot of people, once you get over that hump of trusting yourself, you stop going for the juicy answer.
Yeah. But with that being said, it's a lot easier said than done.
No doubt.
And because and it's not just with the CFP exam, and it's not just with athletes like we talked about earlier, but it's even like, think about your everyday life and the things that you do, and the activities that you do. And I think about some of the things that I do. It's so easy, and I'll say it. We always use sports as an analogy, but like if you like talk about golf, like many people go and they take lessons or they go hit at the driving range and they learn a new technique, how to grip the club, whatever, and it's actually working. Like whether it's at a lesson or at the range, like you're hitting the ball really well. When you get out there on the course, it's so much different. And obviously, you're not playing under like a microscope or anything. It's completely different, but like it's the same mindset in your head. And you go out there and you doubt yourself. People are always going to naturally doubt themselves. And, it's a lot easier said than done to, um, block out all the pressure.
Yeah. Especially if you're somebody who's practicing. Like I always used to feel this like I would be around senior advisors and it just felt like they knew exactly what to say and exactly what to do all the time. And I would always feel like I don't know, I know jack shit compared to them. And
Mhm.
so if they were to go in and take the exam, they would kill it. But like I would go in there and I was like, okay, so now I did a review course, so that makes me an expert. And the whole point of this studying is not necessarily because this is the end of the journey. It's supposed to be the beginning of the journey that it sets you up to properly deal with these situations when they do come up. And you're naturally going to get better and better at it as you practice more and more. But this is your version of your residency. Um, is a residency going to teach you everything you're going to see as a doctor? Of course not. But does it prepare you to know how to deal with it? Absolutely. And I think a lot of us, even if we score well on a test or on a mock, I did great on,
Still,
I still
yeah,
feel like an imposter, like, oh, that was lucky.
me too. That's exactly how I felt. No, even if I was and I have to do it over and over again to see that number over and over and over and over again, but I still would doubt myself. If I got 585 on mock exams in a row, I still would doubt myself.
Yeah. And it becomes harder and harder to doubt yourself with every one because on one, you're right. I could argue that that's correct, right? But with two or three, you start to go, wait, I got this. I think
Yeah,
I
but
got this.
I know, but even after I would do, like, I remember the last exam that I took, the
Mm,
last CFP exam that I took, I got like in a CFP mock exam that I took. It was in the low 80s. It was like an 82, I think.
yeah.
And I remember sending it to you, and you were like, that's really good. Like, that's exactly where you want to be. Like, blah, 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 blah. But I still felt to myself like I can walk in, I could take another mock tomorrow and get a 53.
Mm.
Like I was like, is it? I was like, am I really like testing at an 82% level right now? Or did I kind of just get lucky on that? I don't know how much I really
Yeah.
trusted myself.
Yeah, it's hard not to feel like an imposter again, especially when you're new to the industry. Like I think having experience under your belt will breed some more confidence.
Hmm.
You're new, if you're in your early 20s and you're doing this, it's hard because you're going into meetings or meeting clients and they're like, "Yeah, I have you see that those pair of pants right there? Yeah, I've had that for 22 years." Like I have clothes that are older than you. I have things sitting in my house that are older than you. And you're sitting there going, "Wow, that's a slap in the face." And it's hard not to feel that way. And it's hard not to kind of walk into the exam going, "Yeah, I know I did everything I was supposed to do. Fuck." And I will tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's fucking hard. It's hard to trust what you've done.
No, that is really hard.
And I really wish like I had a better like piece of advice. But the only thing that I could tell you is to trust your process and to trust the training that you've done because and I've had students do this and it's so frustrating. I actually had a student do this where he did everything perfectly and this was for a finner exam. He goes in and he goes, "Yeah, I went back and I changed 12 answers." You know what he got?
What?
He missed it by one question. Now, is it
Well,
possible that, you changed 12, you may have changed a couple right that into the wrong?
well, yeah, no, I'm thinking like he probably gave himself a 10 extra points there. Like
He gave himself, he gave himself,
he may have given himself like an extra like 10 points there. You don't know.
or take it
But
away.
but but but
But
but
likelihood
but
is not.
no, but like the likelihood is that you're right. That probably cost him the exam. So the overall fact or the overall point I get the overall point that you're making.
Right. The point is like trust your training, trust what you've done. And if it ends up coming up short, well, you're no better worse off position than going back and freaking yourself out. Because if you go
Hmm.
in there and you're truly not ready, you're really not there, then you're going to fail. But in my opinion, there's no reason to work yourself up and freak yourself out because you literally can, there's only one bad position. That's it. It's failing. So if you go in there and you take it question by question, and my uh, advice, if you're really starting to like freak out, and I'll tell you, there's a very big difference when I've been in both modes where I feel like an imposter. I shouldn't be here. I'm not the guy, like, and I felt this in sports too, right? Like, holy shit, please don't pass me the ball. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to touch the ball. Like, do not fucking pass me the ball because and I think the times where I really felt like I overcame that it was literally being in the moment. And I don't know a better way of saying it is was the only thing that I was focused on was the next play, was the next pass, was the next question. If I get into it and I start really kind of going after it, I tend to kind of it leaves my brain and I get out of that mode.
Yeah, I think you got to kind of, just I know before we wrap, but I think one of the big things, just as we're going through this episode, is just go in like it's any other day and like it's any other exam and it's any other topic that you spoke about with Joe or whoever on the CFP. And if you could, because if you've worked yourself to the point where like you do have the fundamentals in place, like your definitions, like all the concepts that you need to know, then you clearly have the ability to pass the exam and do some right things. It's just a matter of, is the moment going to become too big for you where you psych yourself out? And if you could somehow, and again, it's much easier said than done, and there's no like quick fix solution for it, but if you can somehow say to yourself, this is just another day doing some CFP shit, I think that's how you overcome that. But again, it's a lot easier said than done.
100%. I'll kind of wrap on this. I think also if you were really nervous before the exam, everybody's tendencies to try to distract themselves. And I say fuck that. Be nervous. Feel it because you can only be nervous for so long. And I know everybody, if you're a nervous person or somebody who suffers from anxiety or something, you're like, no, it can go on forever. Eventually, you start to spin yourself out and then you wear yourself out at some point, and then you can be in the moment. And I know a lot of people who their process is I get nervous, nervous, nervous. I spin myself almost out of control, and then I calm down. So if you're nervous leading into the exam, don't try to avoid it. Don't try to distract yourself from it. Stay in those nerves because you got to feel them because you're better off feeling them on Thursday than on Saturday. And I know, for me, it's like anytime I've tried to like avoid thinking about this, I'm going to think about the test. I'm going to just feel it. And then whenever that feeling is done, it's done. And you just got to live in it. Like, there's nothing you can do to avoid it. So, you got to feel the nerves. Everybody feels them. Nobody's immune. Everybody's going to feel those nerves. Don't try to distract yourself away from those nerves. Face them head on. And then, if that spins you out a little bit, cool. Do that before the exam. Try not to do that in the exam room. So, as always, everybody, we hope you found this episode helpful. With any questions, comments, or concerns, reach out to David or myself, and we will see you guys very soon.